see if I can reach the back.
Pastor Paul.
There you are, Mike. How you doing tonight?
All right, doing okay. Just trying to call you.
I saw that, and you wouldn't believe it. As you were calling, an Amber Alert went out. Exactly the same time. The phone was going.
Go figure.
But then the Amber Alert went away. So was that just go figure?
Go figure.
All right.
Yeah.
Woo.
Well, I guess you have your explanation for my communication.
I do, and I actually tonight, I read your communication on Patreon earlier today, but tonight I went and read it here. You were dead on. Folks, here's what Mike sent me. As of today, a great instability has taken hold of the Middle East. Alert status changes are in effect as troops all throughout the Middle East draw back and ready themselves for a wide-scale regional war. That's what I've got nervous about. Talks are breaking down rapidly. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is drawing back to their respective nations' hardened positions. Pastor and Heidi, the conditions in the Middle East are different. Something has changed, and I suspect we all will have answers within hours. Well, you were right. We have some answers. And just reported, Mike, just so you know, they just reported that the leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, General Hossein Salami, has been killed. And that's been confirmed by the government of Iran. He is dead. So can you tell us what all has really happened so far?
This attack is an attack against those who control or those who are guiding the nuclear program in Iran. The reason why there are topside facilities of Iran that can be hit, but there are deep underground facilities that cannot be hit, right?
Okay. Yep.
These are hardened nuclear facilities, and they're going to remain a problem because this is just the first round with Israel. This is by no means over. Not over
right,
at all.
Right. You think is it going to take days, Mike, or weeks, or what do you think?
Well, Pastor, the whole Middle East has been undergoing some vast changes. They know that some large regional operations are going to take place, and you really see the biblical formation of things happening in the Middle East right now.
Right.
It is undeniable, because this is not just against Iran. This is going to draw out a coalition the world is about to meet that they never really knew was so involved in operations in the Middle East in the first place.
So are we talking, okay, is Turkey in part of this? Or I know, Russia? I mean, who are we talking about?
Yeah, Russia is involved. Remember, Iran and Russia they support each other. They keep each other alive. And so you're not going to attack Iran and not have some type of Russian influence or interference or support. So this is going to escalate. That's why the U.S. pulled back. That's why they had to pull out, because, if it were going to be a small incident, fine. That's not what the case is, right?
No.
This is igniting everything. The USA has to beware, right? Because I'll tell you, it looks one way right now, but all of us should know that before Iran falls, before they really fall, before they are dispersed and destroyed, they will have joined forces with other nations, and those other nations are going to fight. Right, they're going to assemble and fight before they're taken down permanently. But I believe that process has begun.
So you're saying
tonight,
yeah,
will ignite. This is going to lose. I've been saying this for about the last half a day, but this will lose a real demon. This will.
Wow. So I mean, is this like Apollyon coming out of the pits of hell? Is this
And yeah, could be him, but
could
this
be
will
him?
lose a real demon. I mean, a real one, a
Real
real
demon.
force
Yeah.
to really contend with. In fact, today is it's almost like a cold chill
Ah,
went down the backs of everybody involved. I mean, can you imagine an operation that didn't sit right with anybody? I mean, with anybody, not
you
even Israel.
I mean, you're saying this attack by Israel to take out the Iranian nuclear capabilities
Hmm.
and to assassinate some of their generals and maybe even higher up before it's all
So,
said.
yeah, they're trying to get to everybody who has anything to do with it again because they cannot touch some of the hardened facilities underneath the ground. And there could be up to 7 facilities. For example, publicly people know about Fordo, right?
Yes, yes. And
Fordo,
Bashir. There's two that we know.
Fordo is massive,
Is it?
massive, right? There is talk that there are about 12 underground hardened facilities.
Wow.
Not just, but like Fordo. Fordo is 80 meters in the earth,
What? 80
right? So
meters.
that's pretty,
Whoa.
yeah, it's pretty deep,
That's deep.
pretty deep. So you're looking at facilities that could be deeper than that. You can't hit that without destroying quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Because you would cause a massive earthquake.
Yeah.
But we know that when they do hit those underground facilities, you're talking the whole earth is going to know when it hits, right?
Yeah.
The entire earth. They already know. Geologists have been brought in to see the effects of hitting those nuclear sites, because you're talking about facilities with these centrifuges with actual uranium in them, right?
Right.
U-235.
Right.
And if you hit those deep underground, it's going to cause pretty big explosion. And
So
so they already
does
know
it
that's going to cause a massive earthquake.
does it
Uh,
when you hit these, does it also set off the uranium that's down there?
it depends on the state of the uranium. Uranium generally is not explosive, so to speak. Uranium is not. Um, but some of the chemicals and some of the processes, right? If they begin to react quick enough, if it's separated from graphite, it will begin to react. And you're talking about a reaction that's not going to slow down, right? So that could be it could be a doozy, but that would cause an earth. That would cause a global earthquake, more than likely.
I mean, you're talking about like a mega quake. It would
Yeah,
set things
because
off.
it's just simply too much.
Yeah.
It's simply too much. Not to mention that whole area, right? Would everybody would have to get out of that area, even though it's 80 meters underground, you're still going to have uh, radioactive leakage. You're going to have a lot, so people are not going to hang around there, right? But you have before that happens, there are a lot of strategic personnel to take out to confuse their operations. So you take out the leadership
Yeah.
of these nuclear programs.
Yeah.
Then you go back, right? Then you go back and you find out some, because they're going to start talking, and you get more intel, and then you hit more sensitive areas. Right? They're being careful. They're trying not to hit any civilians.
They're
They're
trying. They're
trying their
trying
best.
hard. Right.
Then, of course, we talked about this one scenario. In order to hit some of these underground facilities, you need a person down there who's never going to come back up again.
Oh, so you got to send in a suicide spy.
Yeah, well, you got to have somebody who's very patriotic
Yeah. They're
who
probably
do that.
not going to
And,
come
but
back.
believe it or not, you have the Mossad, you have people
Yep.
in the Mossad and various forces who would do just that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the bad news. Since Clinton, they've been telling people that Iran is 30 days from breakout. In the
Okay.
Obama administration, they said Iran was 10 days from breakout. They said this multiple times.
Yeah.
During the Obama administration and during the Benjamin Netanyahu said, he pulled out his charts, he proved it. He said these guys or 15 days away from breakout. That was back then.
Okay.
We know in 1991, fissile material, lots of it, lots of supplies came from Russia to Iran. We
Mm-hmm.
know that certain weapons were left in Iran. We know that they had hold of for about 4 ICBMs, right? The big ones, big boys, big nuclear weapons.
Yep.
They were left there, right? We know that. We know that since then, it was, in truth, Iran who had all the scientists who were developing things for Russia,
Mm.
right? And so here's a newsbreaker like the hypersonic missiles.
Mm-hmm.
That science came from Iran.
Wow.
We also know that all those scientists, basically, that are at CERN, right?
Yep.
They're the ones who taught them were at in Iran for years, right?
Wow.
So Iran had the best scientists in the world. They were there in Iran for about 15 years.
So
Think about
is
that.
that the plan then to that means they're a lot more developed than what we're giving them credit for.
There's a whole lot more that's probably not going to be discussed. Personally, I believe it's the reason that we end up having the Gog Magog war in the first place, and some of those declarations are the way they are because even in Ezekiel 38, you have what Persia, Ethiopia, Libya,
Yep.
you have Elam with them.
Yep. That's
You
right.
you have
Iran,
all of them.
Russia, Turkey.
So that means they all existed. They all started working together before they were finally taken down, which fulfills Jeremiah 49
Yep.
something.
Yep. You're
So
right.
you have that going, but we're in the middle of that, right? That's happening right now. But it also
Jeremiah
means that they have,
Jeremiah 49 is happening tonight. I mean, it really is. We're watching it develop tonight.
yeah, they have some sort of extraordinary capability. Another piece is this is sobriety. Israel knows this is going to come with large scale feedback from the world.
Oh yeah.
Okay, from the world. Pastor Paul, this could be the moment when the world calls upon Israel to disarm. When they actually
Oh,
bring
you've
them
been
before,
saying that. You've been saying
yeah,
that.
yeah, this is where they may step in and forcibly disarm Israel. You know, and I know that if one civilian dies, it's gonna be the biggest deal in the Middle East. Unfortunately, we live in a world. It's almost like people have amnesia. As soon as something happens, they forget what they did,
Right.
and all of a sudden they're squeaky clean, blaming everybody else. So Israel is alone on this one. I mean, they're alone. Here's what I mean by that. President Trump, he already informed everybody to pull out. He did.
Yep.
He did that.
He did it. Yes, he did.
He told the civilians to get out, but he informed all the allied nations. He told them that he supports peace only. That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what he said this morning
That's what he said
by
this
way of a
morning.
memo.
Oh,
He
did he?
put a memo out to everybody, to all the allied nations, and he said he supports peace only. Right? So he's not in other words, he's not behind this attack. He's not against it. They have to do what they do to survive, is what he kept saying. Um, but he didn't want anything to do
He wants to
with
be.
this
So
operation.
you're saying what he's doing is he's saying, "Look, I don't want to. I don't want to be anybody to say that I helped them do this.
Yeah,
This is
because he
their
didn't. He
deal.
stood against it. Yeah,
Yeah, this is their
he did.
deal.
He actually told them, he really hoped it wouldn't come to this, but
Yep.
he understands every nation has a right to defend itself, right?
Yeah.
So he just kind of backed away from that.
Now, what will he do now? Will he set back for a while and then move back in? And if Israel starts, I mean, do you expect a counterattack on
Yes, I
Israel?
do. Yes, I do.
And how
In
from
fact,
who? Do you see more than
right,
just the Iranians?
absolutely. Pastor Paul, I'm telling you that coalition of forces that we see in the Bible,
Yep. Yep.
we're going to see them activate. All right, they've been in operation in small parts here and there. Now we're going to see them operate as one massive You know,
Ugh.
this will be the catalyst that will bring them all together.
Okay.
It'll put them under one umbrella. If you think about it, Iran has billions of dollars, right? They've been funding all of this chaos in the Middle
That's
East,
true.
right?
Yep.
Now they're going to take the These guys have trillions. All all the world knows about is 300 billion. They float this $300 billion number around, but long before the 300 billion, they had amassed trillions from an oil deal, from a couple of deals. So they have a lot of money, and they've been funding quite a few things. These guys are gonna make that coalition. They're gonna activate it. They're also gonna activate folks here in the USA. There's a long-standing promise with Iran. If they are attacked by Israel, right, they're going to hit both the USA and Israel.
So
So
you're
that means over here in the USA, they're going to activate their folks who have been crawling under the ground, um, who are ready to do damage to the USA. This is a time for, you know what? It could be a blessing with these riots on the West Coast. Do you know why? It
okay.
has alerted the authorities and these cities that we have a problem with these demonstrations.
Yes.
And because of that, the military is active, the police are active.
Yes.
They're out there, they're vigilant. So this could be a blessing,
So you think
not
that you're
necessarily a
thinking the
curse.
LA attacks protests
Hmm.
actually could be a blessing because then
That's
that
right.
the whole world we all can see that whoa we got a problem and they don't want law and order. We got a problem though, Mike, not only about the sleeper cells in this country, and you've been telling us there's a lot of them, but these politicians, not Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, but now we got this guy like today runs in there and tries to disrupt Alex Padilla, a senator, shows up and just starts shouting and running and yelling at Kristi Noem. And look,
Well,
the FBI took and they cuffed and stuffed him so
wrong
fast.
person.
Wrong.
That's not the person to run to.
No.
You're right. You don't run into a briefing with anybody dealing with Homeland Security and law enforcement in general and protection of this nation. Go to the regular press secretaries. Just don't go
Yep.
to,
Don't go in
don't
there.
go there. That's the wrong place.
But
Of course, you're going to get manhandled. This is a bad atmosphere.
I've seen it.
It really is a bad atmosphere.
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody. He could have been anybody,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
You just can't do that.
No. Now, to Kristi Noem's credit, after everything when she was done with her conference and everything, and then she said, "You know what? Bring him in, set him down in front of me. I'll talk to him for a few minutes." And she gave him 15 minutes. But there's a protocol. You're going to do things right, and if you don't, you're going to get hammered. Okay.
Yeah, because there have been people who have tried to kill her already.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
And so they have to be vigilant that way. So I know they're going to spin it in 1,000 different directions. But it's just what we're facing.
Now, Mike,
we're really
what
seeing the truth of what these
revealed.
folks are standing for. Yeah.
Mike,
so people ought to be observant.
What do you think Saturday, June 14th? I know that we're going to celebrate that $45 million parade that everybody's crying about. Although I went and found out how much does it cost to have 2,000 demonstrations across the country. What's the cost on that? It was $2 billion for George Floyd. They're estimating this would cost $10 billion to have 2,000 demonstrations. You know how much security you got to get in 2,000 locations? You want to know that? You think that's cheap? I mean, and not counting the damage and the violence. So, Mike, tell me something. What in the world are the Democrats doing? What in the world this is bigger than the Democrats, isn't it? This is bigger. What is this? What is
this? This is a war. This is there is a it's kind of sad people can't see this, but you have two sides in this country, right?
Yeah.
Now you have, I'll say, four sides. You have the people, and then you have the politicians. Here's the problem. The people, they may be like a democratic person. They may be operating by a specific ideology. They should be finding out that their leaders have a different ideology altogether. Um, and it's like that on both sides, really.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
It's like that on both sides. And what's happening is you have people, the politicians are telling them exactly what they need to hear to get them gaslit. I guess that's a new term. And so these people get excited. But what they ought to be observant about is exactly what the politicians are doing. I heard a person today that was, they were giving a testimony. They got real upset. They said what we should be doing is coming up with a solution to immigration. Pastor, how long have they been saying that?
Oh, for 50 years, 40, 50
Okay, so
years. Yeah.
the truth is they're not going to do anything. Every time they say we ought to come together and do something, they do absolutely nothing.
Right.
Right
Right.
now, the truth be told, this whole thing is not over immigration. It's not. The
Okay.
truth is, it's over one side winning and dominating the other. There's some sort of spirit. There's a spirit operating in America where people desire to govern others, period. And if they're not governing others their way, right, they get upset.
Yep. Yep.
They get too upset because if you look at the causes, these folks are arguing over things that are nonsense. The people who are being gathered up are not the folks who have been in colleges, right, for
That,
4 years. They're
that's
not
right.
the people who have because you have people that come here, they go to school, right, and the government wants them to stay
Yeah. Of
so
course.
they can
Yeah.
start
They've
companies here.
invested in them. They've
The
invested.
ones they don't want are the ones who snuck in this country, and you don't know what they're capable of.
Right.
That's what people can't seem to see. Sure, this guy may have done nothing for the last 2 years, but eventually somebody's going to do something because they're not going to be able to get the income they want, or they're going to get tired of this, that, or the other. So they're going after people who are the troublemakers of those groups. And essentially, why would we have any type of law that we won't keep? That's a big problem.
Yeah. I mean, it
There
doesn't
are
make sense.
immigration laws, but the immigration laws are not enforced. As a consequence of that, right, we have a lot of crime in this country. But as a consequence of that, we have additional crimes in this country. We also have, because you have a lot of money spent on taking care of criminals. That's
Oh,
a big
it's
issue.
terrible.
I
Yeah.
mean, lots of money. Human resources of every single state is almost broke from taking care of criminals. Then you have Americans who need meals tonight. They can't get them because people who have snuck into this country and desire to do all sorts of things, they're getting that aid over the other people. All that has to be balanced down. As part of our law, you can't not feed them. And so what Trump is doing is enforcing a policy that if you're here, if you're part of a gang, if you are one of those illegal illegals, if you've been on the run, this, that, and the other, you got to go. You just have to go. That's Nobody would let a stranger come into their home,
No.
not knowing who they are, sit them down to dinner and eat with them, and it's a stranger, and you don't know what they're capable of.
No.
You can't do that in this day. You could have done that, 200 years ago to a
Yeah.
degree. You cannot do that today. And so the last problem they're facing is the world is there's a lot of people with a lot of darkness in them, and for some reason they cannot see it.
No, I
They
agree.
can't see it. You have to be vigilant these days. And the Bible teaches that the enemy is of your own household, right? In other words, your true enemy is going to get very close to you.
Yes.
These folks coming into this country, it's not against any race. It's not
No,
against
no,
anybody with a
no.
creed. It's the idea that we have a lot of crime. Um, well, we have a lot coming into this country that cannot be discussed. But a lot of this is just coming on the backs of those who enter in illegally, and that should be shut down. We put a door
Got to.
as the borders, when the borders are up, as a problem we don't have to worry about. We can govern our own people without those complications. And when people want to, because people are always coming into this country, if they're not careful, they're going to paint the picture wrong, like they want everybody gone. That's not what's happening. That's what Hitler did. Uh,
Right.
these aren't the days of Hitler.
No.
People come into this country every single day, right? But
Yep.
they come in through, different avenues, legal ways,
Yeah,
right?
we're,
That's
we're
all.
okay. We're
That's
okay
it.
with legal
That's it.
immigration because
That's
that's
the
a
deal.
process. That's people we
That's the
want
deal.
to come because
That's right.
we've vetted them. We know what they're wanting
That's
to
right.
do. We see they're productive. We figured them out. We want them.
That's right.
We don't want people who just run in. We
That's
don't
right.
have no clue who they are. We don't know what affiliation they have. We don't want Chinese military age men. We don't want Middle Eastern radical Islamic guys. We don't
No,
want
you
the
don't
drug.
want any of those
We
things
don't want
there.
the drug cartels who've been running back and
That's
forth
right.
in the border and the smugglers and the human traffickers and the child trafficking. We don't want these people, right? We don't want these people.
Right. And my biggest deal, my personal pet peeve is if a person comes into this country, if they really want to come here, right, then come here and assimilate.
Thank you.
What that means is don't you bring your religion
No,
here
you come and join the
and then
American
start
way.
converting everybody, because that's like bringing a witch into the church. You don't do that.
You don't do that.
We're a nation founded upon Christianity. If you like America, then you better like that too, or don't come here.
I like
Go
that. I
somewhere
like what
else,
you're saying. I
right?
like what you're
Go
preaching.
somewhere else. Fully assimilate, not this other stuff. Because look what's happened. Look what's happened. They have essentially kicked the name of Jesus out of every commercial establishment
Oh Lord.
in America.
Yeah, I know.
And this is a Christian nation. And nobody was saying Merry Christmas for a while.
For a while.
They took all the pictures of Christ and the Ten Commandments and everything else out of all government buildings. That was a
Yes,
shame.
it's a shame.
That was a shame. That was a shame.
Yeah. Mike, let me ask you also,
Yes.
besides what's happening in the Middle East, we'll come back to that again. Some folks are just now arriving. They're saying, do we know about the nuclear facilities that Iran or Israel's hitting? Yes, we've been reporting that last couple hours here. We know about this also what's coming on June 14th, and I'm very nervous about that as well. But Mike, there's some reports, and I've gotten some inside info, and I just want to run it by you. Concerns about July 4th and July 5th about some type of pathogen release. Is there anything to that, or is that, I'm getting information from people who work in hospitals in Atlanta where the
That's precaution.
memos have been released. Okay, tell us about that.
That's a precaution. Well, let's face it. We have a lot of people in the world that hate us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They hate us. You have a lot of people that hate us. But here we are back when Trump was elected. You and I had a discussion here about the gangs in Mexico.
Yes, we did.
And about how they're a bit bigger than what you realized, a bit more organized than what the world realizes. They have made a declaration. They have, right?
That's not good.
Here's what all of us need to know right now. If they can get fentanyl to every state in this nation, they can also get a deadly pathogen to every state in this nation. Okay, you have to think that way these days, right? That's sobriety, but that's the way it is. So chances are that pathogen has been in place for a few months now, or more than a few months.
I got you.
It's already here. And when it's released, it'll be released by a command given, right? So it could be in a lot of places, and it could be quite a few different pathogens.
I see.
Right? So vigilance is key. This is really a time, too, that people are going to have to rely upon their faith. Hopefully they've been doing that, but they have to rely upon it, because none of this is the devil doing what he wants to do. He's on death row. He's defeated and under our feet.
Amen.
The only thing he can do for us is convince us to reject what Jesus said. That's all he can do to us. But he's trying to get us to do just that. And if he can do it, if he can get us in this climate of fear, he can influence us a little more. He can get us confused and influence us. So the best thing to do for people is to realize something. They've been living in dangerous conditions for quite some time now. They just did not know it.
We just didn't know. We didn't know.
That's right. Many things are coming to light that have been here for some time. And people were doing all right a couple of weeks ago before they had the information.
Yeah.
So having the information shouldn't hurt them at all. Also, the number one thing is this: everything that happens is everything God permits to happen. And if it's happening, it happens for the deliverance of the children of God, not for the bondage or the death of the children of
Okay.
God.
Okay. So that's not, as children of God, let's continue to hold to the promises of God. No matter how bad the darkness is, always
That's
hold
right.
to God's promise that we will be. He said he'd protect us. He'd never leave us. He'd never forsake us. That's your point.
That's right.
Don't fall. Don't let the threat and the fear overtake you. And that's what you're saying.
That's right.
It's been
Pastor,
dark.
that's the only way I made it through. That's the only way I made it through conflicts and wars, is to realize that everything that takes place must take place or wouldn't take
That's
place. God
true.
has, as the devil exists for a reason. That's why no one can take him out. No
Yeah.
one can take him
No,
out.
we can't.
God will deal with him, but God is also using him,
Yeah. You're
right?
right.
He's
You're
using
right.
him.
You're right.
So, but all things are for our deliverance. That's why knowing your environment. That's what the Lord wants us to do, not put our heads in the sand.
So you're saying all
Um,
things work to the good to them that love and serve the Lord? I mean,
that's
that's
right.
what you're saying.
But that essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
That there you go. That's it. That's it. But and things are happening. Chemical warfare is about to become a reality. That could happen within hours, right? That can become a
Thanks.
reality.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Um, we have problems. We have a lot of problems, and this contagion that they have warned hospitals about, because pastor, in the hospitals, there could be tainted materials in the hospitals. Let me give you a scenario. Suppose a person goes to every, or a group of people go to every single hospital on one specific day, and these people are infected. They have injected themselves with something, right?
Okay. Okay.
They go in there. The hospital is going to take some time for the hospital to find out exactly what it is. All they have to do is sit in the ER or something like that, and they're going to spread this around.
Yeah.
That's precisely what can take place. Nothing is off the table. They have already vowed an attack on the USA. They have already vowed that people are going to die within the USA. Right? They've already vowed this. They've declared war upon the politicians.
Yeah.
And they said none of them, everybody who has something to do with the expulsion of certain individuals within the USA are going to pay a price. They're going to pay this is what these people are saying. They're going to pay a price. Their
So
families are going to pay a
so
price.
you're saying that what we're doing right now, and that is by ICE going around and we're taking out these threats, these the criminals, and we're taking out people that really are dangerous, and these that are being shipped out of here. You're saying that they've already set a trap in here, that when we
Yeah.
start this process, they're
Yes.
going to unleash something or
That's their
release.
words.
So this is
Their
already
words.
a threat that
They can do it by command. That's right. And there's some legitimacy to it.
So are
So
you
it's not just
anticipating
words.
that? I mean, are you thinking that's going to happen in this year,
Well,
2025?
Pastor, I tell you what, when I saw, there are too many things I saw in the first place, but I think this year, this summer, is, it's almost like everything is starting to collapse in on itself, meaning many things are happening at one time. And I kept seeing Trump. And it's about 4 or 5 times this year I had that dream where Trump, you remember 9/11 when people had dust all over their face?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Trump had dust all over his face and all over his suit. It was just dust
Okay.
everywhere. And
What
I saw a
what
little,
do you think from?
uh,
What do you think was the reason he had dust on it? Just something you saw.
I think something around him, right? Whatever was around him, the buildings or something came down.
Okay.
That's where it looked like that's where that dust. He was covered with it. His face was covered with it, and he was looking around. He was just looking around. So I think that a type of distress we're going to face some challenges here that may lead to the ultimate change of government itself. Well, I'm highly confident that the government is going to change.
When you mean the
It will
government's
change.
going to change, or you mean through election process or something
The
that's
whole thing, the whole way government is functioning right now, right? it's going to be revamped. It's going to change. There are going to be some changes and some things. And the reason why, Pastor Paul, is because we're going to find out painfully that there are too many betrayers
Yeah. You
in that
said that.
institution right now. Too many.
You warned us about that a year ago, that betrayals were, and when Trump got elected, you said, but you got to understand there's going to be betrayals. We're starting to see some of it in the open, but there's a lot of it going on in the undertone,
Yeah.
right?
And I believe he was elected to, when you're about to face rough waters, the Lord will always put somebody at the helm who's not afraid to go forward with what they strongly believe in, right?
Right.
Because anybody can say anything about President Trump that they want to, but Trump does not lean to this person or to that person or to that person or to
No,
that person.
no.
He if he makes up his mind, that's just the way it is. And the Lord has always used people just like that, whether we like them or not. The Lord has used people like that. When they get something in their head, they go for it because God can put anything in anybody's head, right?
That's
Now,
right.
if he
That's right.
drops something in Trump's head, Trump won't deviate from it. He will not. And nobody can pay him money to deviate from it,
No,
right?
no.
That's one of the key issues.
Can't buy
And
them.
if we're about to go through a rough time, we need somebody just who's stubborn enough to stay the course, whatever course they have in their mind. The Lord will use somebody stubborn enough to stay the course. You look at King David, look at Solomon, look at all these guys who were in real leadership. They stayed, they did things. They weren't they weren't top notch, but they stayed the course.
Amen.
They stayed the course. So I think Trump was elected because his time was always coming.
Yeah, I do too. I think he was
Mhm.
chosen. He was chosen for this moment,
He was.
and God's going to use him because he'll do things that he's, if he feels led
That's
to
right.
do it. Yeah, so he's able.
That's right.
God can use him. All right, now, Mike, we have a couple things. We're dealing with it right now as we're talking. Israel is bombing, and I mean, I've gotten some video already feedback from. I got some video out of Tehran that is just incredible. So they're hitting nuclear facilities, but they're bombing all across that nation, and the Israeli people are in bunkers right now. I mean, they're literally the whole country's in bunkers, hiding and
Yeah.
waiting. Now, you've already said you believe other actors, other players are going to join in and help Iran. You got
Yes.
General Hassan Salami got killed, and
Hmm.
Iran is admitting it. He was the top dog for the Revolutionary Guard.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, while this is all going on in the Middle East, and now we're going to have this massive chaos Saturday, and I figured it out. There was $45 million we're going to spend on this parade, but it's $10 billion. That's the cost, $10 billion for 2,000 protests, and some of those are going to turn violent. They're going to be rioting, and I understand from one of my insiders there's going to be even shooting at the police. I mean, this is part
Like
of it.
today, there were fatalities. There were some fatalities today
I didn't know that.
for police officers today. Yeah. So it's already begun. It's already begun.
Now,
People are becoming desperate.
so Mike, we had the plane go down in India, which seems like when normally if a plane crashes and kills 241 people, that's all people talk about. That is way down the list. And one guy walked away from this thing. How does one guy? I mean, I looked at him too. How in the world did he walk
Pastor,
away?
this guy jumped out the door like he was alerted to something. This guy jumped out the door and survived. This guy went right out that exit door.
Wait a minute? When after the crash, he jumped out the door, or
As that
before?
somehow he jumped out the exit door, and he's alive right now. Nobody else is.
Yeah,
But how in the world does somebody? Why would he do that? How would he do that?
that's
Right.
what I want
So
to know.
something different was going on with that. I don't believe he caused it either because
No.
he was doing it. But yeah,
What
he got out.
we got?
That's just an amazing story. We may never know all the facts of it, but
I wish I could.
he's
I really want to know who he is, what he's all
got something in
about.
store. He's
Yeah,
got something in store for his life.
he
Because I'm quite nosy. I'll find out.
You'll find out. Yeah.
I'll certainly. Yeah, because I do that with accidents.
Do
right?
you? Do you?
A lot of accidents, believe it or not. You'd be surprised what you'd find out about accidents. There are no accidents. Let's put it that way.
I found that out.
Really, everything is purposed. When you start looking into the backstory of most of these, stories that are published or people who pass away and things like, you find out the most interesting things.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the people who pass away in this world, by the way, are not God's people. And that's an amazing thing. And
That is
they're
amazing.
not.
No.
Most of the people who die, these horrific, these bad stories that you hear, those are not God's people.
A lot of them. Yeah, you're
Those
right.
are not God's people.
Wow.
So it's just an amazing thing because I've never heard of any of God's people really. I've never heard of them suffer. I've heard people that seem to be God's people, but then when you look at their backstory, you find out they were not.
Hmm.
Right? They were toying with things.
Hmm.
But no, the
Yeah.
Lord he is exactly what he says he is. And
Well,
we just can't, a lot of people are scared into believing this somehow because they felt pain in their life. They think it's going to come back again. That's not true. That's not true. He's very merciful.
all right, Mike, let's go into the heavens for a minute, if you don't mind, because
Yes.
we've had some earthquakes. We've had the solar flares. There's been some discoveries up there of moons and things that, and we've got an asteroid coming that they think is going to hit the moon. If it don't hit the moon, it's going to hit us. So there's some developments going on in the heavens. This binary system must be getting closer. There was massive chunk of ice and rock and stuff coming off out there. I believe it was I can't remember now. It wasn't Norway, but I can't remember where it was at. So there's a lot of activity under the water. You've been talking a lot about this. What do you see coming in the next few months? I mean, they talk a lot about these meteorites coming in. What do you sense is going to be taking place?
Few months? Well, I have a caution about the oceans in particular. I know a danger is coming from the oceans. I know that water event will come to. We have too many large bodies of ice. I'm telling you, at any moment, they could just sink into the ocean. And when that happens, the ocean levels are going to abruptly rise, right? They have pulled out research teams and rigs from certain, places where they were investigating. The ice, they pulled them out. They can no longer be there. No subs, no anything can go under certain pieces of ice anymore. There's one piece of ice that is probably the size of Rhode Island, and it's being held up by a piece of ice no bigger than a standard mall.
Now, wait a minute.
So think of that.
Wait a minute. You're saying a smaller piece of ice is holding up a massive piece.
Yeah, that smaller piece of ice would look like the mall, right?
Okay.
And the top piece of ice would look like Rhode Island, New York, the whole thing.
Well, what in the world?
And it's melting from the ground.
But it's going to go.
The ice is melting
from
the ground. There you go. There you go. It's almost. They know it's going to shear off.
Where's
right?
it at?
They know it's going to hit the bottom. It's in the both. Well, you have 7. Take your choice. We have some to the north and some to the south.
Atlantic Ocean. I mean, are we talking the Atlantic, the Arctic, or Antarctic?
No, if that's in the Arctic, and if it happens, it will affect the entire Earth. That's too much water displacement.
Yeah,
that's too much. Too much. So you're looking at a type of tsunami all over the Earth that it could be 20, 30, 40, 50 feet high, but it's going to happen everywhere.
Okay,
right?
now
think of a tsunami, a quiet tsunami that happens like that everywhere, right? So no noise, no earthquake, no volcanoes. It's just that the water rises. People wake up, and all of a sudden they look outside their front door, and the ground is reflecting the sky because water is everywhere.
Now, Mike,
so we'll see something like that.
But now in Blatten, Switzerland, they had huge piece of ice come off, take some rock with it and land, and it destroyed an entire village. They evacuated that village 2 weeks before it happened, but they knew it was going to happen. That was just from a glacier. Okay, so there's other glaciers that are, as you said, very barely hanging on, and there's no doubt the ocean floor is heating up. The ocean is warming up in its degrees. That's causing the polars to swim. It's
Yeah.
not tailpipes and mankind. This is
No, it's our sun.
yeah, our sun. So, do you see? Is this going to take in the next decade? If time lasts, let's say in the next decade, what happens with the sun? What are we going to get visited
Oh
by
boy.
this bowler? This
Yeah, well,
by
already
you know
this month, it's only
okay
been 12 days this month, the resonance of the entire solar system and all of NASA's probes and is all of them are in sync, right? The resonance of all of them has changed, right? So
what's
they're
that
all in
mean?
something is vibrating the entire system right now, and it's causing actual feedback on the instrument. So it's going to start messing with the Schumann resonance of the Earth, of course, but it's going to mess with the vibration of all the planets all at one time. We're under an influence from an external object, period. For example, I'll give you a hint. Uh, June 27th, right?
Okay.
On the somewhere around the 27th, we're going to have a solar event. Now, of course,
Okay.
nobody's dumb enough to say that, but I got a pretty good track record when it comes to solar events. We're going to have a solar event because these solar events are tied to something external, which is on its way here, right? Which is
Okay.
going to double. It's going to double the activity that we're having. Right now, we're in the season where people are really going to start to feel the effects of these environmental changes we've been having, right? So you're looking at in the oceans, you're looking at very different activity because the salinity of that water is going to change. The chemicals in the water are changing. The air, right?
Okay.
Everybody's going to feel different. The pressure is going to change even more than what it has. Nobody's going to be able to live in coastal places due to humidity. We're going to have a humidity issue. Right after the water takes its toll and the winds will continue to build, that's going to become quite dangerous.
And hail? Will we
Right,
get hail?
that's right. We'll have large gorilla hail and
Gorilla
upwards.
hail.
Yeah, that's the big boys. They'll be. In fact, a few days ago, right? You don't see it anywhere, but there was hail that was falling. That was what they say that the size of two softballs.
Whoa! I saw.
So you have
Whoa! Really?
yeah, the size of two softballs, right? So that's unbelievable. What is that? And then you have it's starting to spread. It's starting to spread out. Now somehow it's happening because we have in the upper atmosphere, the winds were just incredible. So you had enough updraft to start the process. But as you go up, the wind speeds increase. So you have enough wind to sustain some pretty heavy hail. It's not going to take long now before everybody has it. So places like Colorado, the hailstorms they have.
Yeah.
Imagine if they had all their hail was softball size and larger.
No.
That's what you're looking at. The average thunderstorm will carry hail that size. This is what we're working up to. That's the beginning of it, right? And so it'll grow from there. There was another place that had 9 inches of hail.
That's crazy.
How in the world and no reports.
No, I never heard about it. I didn't hear about it.
No reports.
Why aren't they reporting it, Mike? Why?
If you look at the weather, right? They're going by script in the weather. There are some things they cannot say. They cannot say it. So nobody should look for. If you don't know anything about meteorology, find somebody good on YouTube who would say it, right? And watch them carefully because they're not naming some of this new phenomenon that's starting to happen, and it's starting to happen worldwide. Right. For example, it's going to start raining rocks in certain areas. That's an actual process.
Okay.
That's just not understood. Well, I've talked about that one Thursday because it's already starting to happen.
What about?
It's happened in a few places, and nobody understands why.
Raining rocks from the heavens, from the sky, from space.
Rocks.
Where's it coming from?
No, rocks are actually coming from within the earth. right?
Okay.
But there's a process in the earth that causes these rocks to be ejected right almost at the tip or at the place in the atmosphere where it takes them a long time to come back down again, or some time to come back down again. And then because they start out small, then they coalesce as they start coming back down again. So we have that phenomenon happening, right? Um,
Is
and that
that
will
is that
also spread.
caused by this atmospheric compression? The
No,
no?
no, that's caused by magma. It's caused by
Magma.
and when you have this gas exchange within the planet, right, due to the magma, you have superheated water, which is essentially steam. And when it starts changing chambers, when a chamber opens up, steam rushes in there. Normally it pulverizes rock and everything else, and there are tubes that go straight up, and they'll shoot them straight up in the air. I mean, way up there, just kind of like an eruption without the magma is what it's like. So
I got you.
you're looking at that. You're looking at that kind of thing.
Is there any volcanoes right now that you're real concerned about? Right on you're really worried about?
In the Pacific,
Okay.
yes, and that crack in the Atlantic is a problem,
Yeah, you've been talking about
right? I know nobody worries about this because nobody's heard about this, but Tamu Massif it keeps me awake.
what? Where?
Tamu Massif,
Where's that at?
that's in the Pacific.
Okay.
Tamu Massif. I know they say it's dormant and all that good stuff, but it's not a good. In the solar system, that's one of the largest volcanoes in
Really?
the solar system, and they will not permit that to be said.
I know. No, they won't. What about the Seamount over there in Cascadia? I mean, off the coast of Oregon.
Of course, that's troublesome, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you, so long as the coast plate is in place,
Yeah.
we're going to have enough pressure to take a lot.
And
But
now
if
the
the
coast
coast
plate
plate,
seems like
if
that's
that moves,
down in
if that shifts, that's right. That's right above. If you look at South America, it's right there, South America,
South
Mexico.
America.
But if it shifts, we lost stability. There's no stability, right? So
Really?
all the fault lines north of it are going to start shifting.
Wow, that's
Yes, a
putting
lot of pressure
then
on the
that's
coast
putting a
plate.
ton of pressure on that one plate. Then
It's like a cork.
It's off
It's
off the
just like
coast
a
of
cork.
maybe in South America, Central America. It's right down there in that little.
Uh huh. Right there in the bend, I guess you
Yeah,
could
in the
say.
bend.
Right there in the bend, right above Peru. You start going upward, and you'll see it, coast
Yeah.
plate. But they found this out by looking at this. They did it was a certain type scan they did, and they started looking inside the Earth at how it was shaped, and it had some anomalies shape wise that cause it to withstand a lot more pressure than normal. So you have all these plates putting pressure on this small plate. If it goes, it's connected to about four major plates, and San Diego is going to have a big problem if that goes. So
Wow.
anything that happens in Mexico, volcanism in Mexico is a clear indication of a problem with the coast plane, which means that California is going to be next.
You're very concerned about really the San Diego area. Is that your number one spot in California?
Yeah, because that's the spot that it's not going to survive. It's just not going to survive.
I mean, there's a lot of people that live in San Diego, Mike.
Well, you look at that landmass, right? And if the one fault shifts a little bit, everything is going to start shifting, and that subduction zone will not sustain itself. It's going to snap, and when it does, you're going to have a landmass shot straight up in the air. It's going to lose buoyancy and everything else, and from that point, that's going to be a big problem. But at that time, that will affect quite a few places.
Okay, Mike,
but California is going to get it.
We got an update here on what Israel's in their fourth wave now of attacks.
Yeah,
the Israeli Prime Minister is confirming that the Natanz facility has been targeted. Natanz has been targeted,
yep.
And the military operation against Iran's weapon development. The Israeli Prime Minister has announced this operation. They're calling it the Rising Lion. To roll back Iran's threat to Israel's survival.
Yep. There you go.
So they're also saying that some of Iranian's top military leadership is been deceased. So they're doing it. It sounds like it's more than just going after the nuclear facilities. It's that and trying to assassinate as much of the head of the snake as they can. Is that right?
Because if they do that, right, they get the commanders of these nuclear facilities. They're good to go because commanders are essentially they're the know-it-alls to all that stuff. They compartmentalize those nuke facilities so well. All that brain powers in the minds of those people in charge. And so if they take them out, it's certain people they're going to take out. When they take them out, they have disrupted their nuclear program. Again, because they cannot hit some of the fortified facilities without total devastation of Iran itself.
They don't want to do that. They don't want to hurt the population.
Plus,
right?
to get something 1,000 feet in the earth,
I don't know. You got to get somebody.
And that would take a lot.
Mike, does Mossad also have assassination teams on the ground while this is all going on?
They have people everywhere. They have people that are the Mossad can have people that they live everywhere, right? Once they go out on mission, they don't come back home for years. They integrate into this whatever society they're assigned to, and nobody hears from them ever again until they come back home. That could be 20 years later, it could be 40 years later. So that's the way they do. So there are people living in Iran right now. They're citizens, but they're in fact Mossad.
And so during the chaos of the bombing and the blowing up, and I mean, this has not happened to Iran. This is new. I mean, this hasn't happened to them. What Israel's doing tonight is
this is unleashed.
This, as you said, it's going to unleash a demon. It's going to turn a real demon loose.
I believe it has. I mean, a real one. Yep, a real.
Is the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei? Is he a target right now? Would they like to take him out, or is that if you take him out, is that like killing a pope or something? And just
if he's taken out, they have an understanding that you're going to have a worse problem coming forward.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You're still going to have the rhetoric. So why not take out the brains of the operation, those who have the hands-on with the nuclear munitions? That's what he's after.
Okay.
Right? Because some of these generals are the scientists.
Yeah, I know. So Trump's saying he's not involved because he doesn't want to create a broader war, right? I'm sure we're involved in behind the scenes, but I'm just saying got to say we're not.
He really wants peace.
He does, I understand. But remember, they tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Is he got some assassins out there too? But he don't.
Well, that's why he packed up and went home. Well, let's put it this way: if the USA, if we want people, we're going to get people, right?
Yeah.
That's not too hard.
No,
that's not the. But if you do that, right? If you do that, you show your hand to everybody.
And you got a lot bigger problem then. That's right.
And you show your hand. You don't want everybody knowing exactly what you're capable of. You will lose control faster.
Trump really wants peace. I mean, he is a man of peace.
He does.
But he also knows that there's a time for war and there's a time for peace.
Yeah. That's why he backed off. And he said, Israel,
you're on your own.
I'm not. He said, I'm not. I wouldn't do this. He didn't condemn it.
He didn't do that.
He understands they have to do what they have to do.
But if Israel gets it, if other people jump in, I'm going to ask you, if other people jump in against Israel, does Trump jump in to defend Israel at that point?
I'll say this. I hope so. But I have the one scripture that bothers me, and you never know exactly
when it's
what the timing of that is.
Okay.
But when it says Jerusalem is trampled underfoot for 40 and 2 months.
Yeah, it's there.
Where is the USA? How in the world can anybody occupy Jerusalem, set up the abomination of desolation for 3.5 years? How can that happen without the USA intervening?
I agree.
So that lets me know something has happened to us.
Yeah. Well,
and I think we're also starting to see the formation of what could happen to us.
I'm going to say that if Gavin Newsom becomes president of the United States, then I wouldn't be shocked.
Pastor. That worries me
See what
every
I'm
day.
saying?
Nah,
Trump
I
will
know
not
people.
turn his back on Israel. Trump will
No,
not.
he's not. He's
But
not.
but
He's not.
Gavin Newsom, how do you feel about that?
He's not. But see, I think it almost makes you, because if things begin to align, it's a lot to pray for. But the Lord's gonna, He'll have His way. Prophecy will not fail.
Can't fail prophecy. Right.
It's not going to fail. We don't know how things will happen. Nobody wants it to happen on their watch, of course.
But
But
it could.
if it does,
It does. It does.
uh, we'll have an understanding of what we're facing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we will, believers and those who study prophecy, but the average person is going to be left out in the cold because that's when they mock Israel, isn't it? That's when they
Yes.
scoff
Yes, they
Israel
will.
and say, "Where's the promise of His coming?"
Yeah. They will.
Because a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not going to be here when that happens."
You might
But
be.
in the Bible, it states, before the Lord comes back, before Jesus comes to get His children, before people are changed in the twinkling of an eye, it said that day shall not come; there shall come a falling away
Falling
first. That man of
away. And that
perdition, the man of perdition has to be
be
revealed.
revealed.
So, and when He's revealed, when He goes in the temple of God, showing Himself as God, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm
well,
with
there
you.
we are. So
There you are.
people have to
Okay,
see
so
this guy.
let's look at Gavin Newsom for just a second. And I mean, this guy's a failure when it comes to managing. But does he have? Is there some kind of inertia that do they want him in there? I mean,
His people, yeah.
yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah,
Is he the chosen one? Is that the one they want?
Well, Pastor, I tell you, all the rest of them, right? Who would go down the center lane, they're out.
Yeah, they're all gone.
They hear him. They hear him. I'm telling you, it's a spirit going around that people they're either fine tuned into one side or the other. It's almost like they cannot hear the opposite side. I often stand back because I have to hear everybody.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
but I'll stand back and just I'm an observer. And when I listen to Gavin Newsom, he's speaking. He's speaking to the people, and he's speaking their language,
To his
right?
base.
He's speaking
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
what they want to hear.
Yeah, you're
Right?
right.
They understand that. Now, I've also noticed that he can hear the opposite side, but the people, right, who are the people cannot hear
They won't hear. He
the
can hear them.
opposing side's leadership. They can't hear it. It's almost like Democrats can't hear the Republican leadership, and the Republicans can't hear the Democratic
You're
leadership.
right. You're right.
Right? And so that's an issue. And he knows that. He's going to use that to his advantage.
Yeah.
The problem is Trump cannot stay in power forever.
No,
he
he can't. He's
And
got
despite
3.5 years. I mean,
that's right. Despite what he's done, we go through this all the time. Somebody sets up policies, things begin to work, and then everything goes back the opposite direction, and the opposite side complains. Hopefully, we do it different this time. Right? And hopefully Christians don't abandon their post. They've got to be standing this time.
I hope.
They can't just sit back and let things happen.
Amen.
They have to be active. Pastor, I told some people the other day, I said, when's the last time you rode into the White House? To let your point, I mean, you have a voice.
Yeah, you have a voice.
You have a point of view and a voice, and you're supposed to stand for something. So let it be known that that causes an effect.
It does.
But you don't, where's the Christian protests?
You don't see it.
You don't.
You don't.
You just don't, because everybody has it in their minds. They'll say, "Well, it's just me. I can't do anything." Yes, you can. That's where it begins.
Amen.
With the one person, and the one turns into two, and so on and so forth. It always begins.
So
with one person.
how polarized will it be a debate? J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom head to head.
Oh,
I mean, these are two strong guys. J.D. is sharp as a tack. But the two of these guys head to head, each of them got their sides. It will be a collision course in 28.
You know what I think will happen?
What's that?
I think they will communicate, J.D. Vance, and they would talk, but the people would start physically fighting this time.
Yeah.
Passive, I don't believe that people would survive another election with the mindset they have now. I don't believe that.
So are you saying that each side's going to have to let each other win? Because if they don't, it's going to tear the country apart. So let this one win for this time, and the next time it goes this way, and this.
It's going to have to be a different type of governmental system. I don't think we're going to survive what we're about to see. See, everything is coming to a head right now. They're trying to uphold the appearances of normality, and the people are becoming too destructive. We're about to see cities uh, hurting. We're about to see resources controlled
Oh, I
going
was
into
going to
certain
ask you that. I was
places,
going to ask you.
right?
I got
The white trains are soon to
I
arrive.
know. Okay. I was going to ask you this. It slipped my mind. I'm coming back to it. One of the insiders today, thank you so much for your email, Mike, because it was really informative and I used it to help people. And then you were dead on. I got an email also from one of the insiders who said these, and I know you know this. So here we go. Here's what they said. And I reported this at Patreon, but I think I'm going to try it. There are reports that truckers will not deliver goods to the blue cities, leading to limited food availability. They have been informed that this weekend may mark the beginning.
Yeah.
And additionally, Russia is also preparing for potential preemptive strike on the United States. Not that they're going to do it. Yep. Is this true?
Pastor, a real demon is let loose.
Oh, my God.
And everybody is pulling back into their hardened positions. Everybody.
I heard you say that, yes, in your email.
Everybody.
So when you said everybody, you weren't just talking Middle East, were you?
No, everybody.
Well, what about the truckers? Now, they are predominantly Trump supporters.
Their trucks are being damaged.
They can't drive into an area that's going to be under protest. They're afraid they're going to get.
That's right. They can't.
So
because there have been trucks totally destroyed.
They're going to stay home. They're not for the next week. There's going to be a shortage of food and stuff delivered into the cities. Am I right?
Yeah, they're not going to go. They're not going to go.
I wouldn't go.
They're not going to go. There were some trucks that pulled in. I'm not going to name the place. There's about 20 of them, and their tires were flattened.
Yeah.
And spray paint all over the place, and the windows are busted. So who wants to go through that? These protests, while they look one way on television, right? People are really, people find reasons to exercise their violence. That's what these protests seem to be. So it's just a reason to exercise violence.
Yeah, I know it is. I know this. And they're paid. They're being paid. And I just want to know what Christy Walton's thinking. What in the world is she thinking? And how many other billionaires are thinking? But here's another question. While that's going on, if the truckers decide, you know what, I'm just not going into New York. I'm not going to Detroit. I'm not going to go down into Atlanta. I'm not going to do it.
White trains will show up.
White trains will start showing up. That's the only way they can get the food into the cities. Will have to be on these big cargo white trains, right?
Yeah.
Government trains.
Us being prepared because you know what America's number one supply chain is, don't you?
Don't say spam.
What the number one logistical system is, don't you?
No, tell me.
Walmart.
Well, it's about ready to be abandoned. I'm going to tell you, Mike, right now. Walmart is going to have the worst sales the next 7 days than they've had since they've been in existence. The MAGA people are not going to shop at Walmart. No, not after Christy Walton pulled this stunt. I'm telling you, they're not going to.
Pastor, that's the number one logistical system in the world.
It's about ready to take
now.
a beating.
Walmart.
They called us, we're deplorable. We're the smelly Walmart shoppers. Okay, that was offensive. But when you go in and you try to destroy, you want to create violence and chaos and rioting in 2,000 locations in these cities. People are angry at this. Christy Walton for putting this ad out across the country. She is funding this thing. She's one of the funders. She's not the only one.
Yeah.
Because some of these NGOs that got a ton of money from Biden as he went out the door, they're going to use that money to help fund this stuff too. Am I correct?
Yeah. What do you call that? The Biden administration or the?
I'm not going to say Joe.
Because
I
don't think he was there.
No, he wasn't there. Okay, the Biden auto pen. If that's, can I use that?
Yeah. The folks behind that.
They funded.
That's such a sad situation.
It's terrible. I'm not against. I'm not making.
Hey, but I said it though. I did.
I heard you say it.
Not bragging on myself, but to my credit. Years ago, I said that Biden is not in charge.
You said it. You also said that the white trains will be coming. Folks, you're going to see white trains going into the cities. And now I know why. It's because truckers aren't going to go. And that's going to somebody's going to get angry. There's going to be some anger. But they're going to protest anyway. These people are being paid to do this. They don't care. They'll break. And don't you feel bad for the business owners, Mike? How if you owned a shop downtown in some of these cities, what would you do? Would you arm yourself to protect your own place? I mean, because insurance does not pay. Here's the thing people don't understand. Well, they'll just claim on insurance. Insurance don't pay for riots. It's like floods. I mean, it's like they don't get, if you get robbed and they tear you and they loot, you're out. You don't get to collect on insurance for that. They don't, there's no way to insure that. So you got to board it up and stand out there with the shotguns. About the only thing you got.
I hope that, you know what, Pastor Paul, I hope that everybody is vigilant this weekend, because you never know how vast this can be. You have a lot of people at the beach right now. You have a lot of people, doing things right now. They have no idea.
Wow. Did you write this
what's going
email
on in the country?
This is another email from one of their insiders, okay? We just received an alert that we need to stay vigilant over the next few days. I'm reading it. It is important to prepare ourselves and ensure that our families have enough supplies and safely indoors before nightfall. We should establish a meeting location and encourage everyone to go out in groups and be armed. This was one of our people. Be vigilant.
And they better stay vigilant. I'll tell you, because the enemy of the USA is everywhere. I mean, everywhere, and they are sneaky, right? They could be your next door neighbor who's in good standing with everything. You may not know who they are, and when they get that phone call, they're going to do exactly. Whoever's on the other line, they're going to do exactly what they're being told to do. And if it costs lives, it's going to cost lives. And you know what? It reminds me, Pastor Paul, that I had one of the most disturbing dreams of all the dreams I've ever had was when I was at the airport.
Okay.
And this is a dream. I'm getting away from the airport, and all of a sudden, I see a black guy in Army uniform. I see a pilot. I believe he was a co-pilot, and some civilians, and all of a sudden everybody stopped.
Okay.
I'm looking around, and other people start looking around with me like, why do these people stop? And then all of a sudden they don't talk, they start doing things. So the Army guy, the two of the civilians jumped in a cab, threw the cab driver out. They say, get out. And the guy, they didn't even give him time to answer, and they pulled him out. He didn't act quick enough. So they threw him out on the street. They got in the cab. And I tried to get in the cab. I said, well, I gotta go. I don't know what's happening here. I thought it was an alert or something. And the guy said, you can't be in here. You got to get out. And I kind of, what? You said what to me? What?
Right.
And the other guy started coming around, no time, and pulled me out of the cab. And from there, some other people came down the streets and said, everybody's got to go inside now. And people were taking their time. And another group, they weren't talking to each other. Another group came up and started beating everybody who was slow.
What?
And I sat inside this house, and people, the television was on. People were in their homes scared to death. They didn't know what was going on. Nobody was communicating. Nobody knew what was going on. These people were not talking to each other, but they began to work in unison, in tandem with each other. And when they made a demand, you had to fulfill it quickly. So I was in this house, and you'd hear people would open the door and they would call out a name. And if they called her name, you had to go. Nobody knew why. And they would shut the door. And there was an old lady in this house, and they called her name. And she was scared. She was crying. She didn't want to get up. So they walked in and broke her arm, yanking her up, right? And pulling her out of this small apartment. Nobody knew what was, and then the dream ended. And this happened here in America, where people changed. All of a sudden they changed, and they began to work in unison. I mean, from all walks of life, and no one talked. They didn't communicate. They knew exactly what to do, but there was a point where they all stopped. They just quit moving. They stopped moving, and then they started doing things. And they didn't give you time to do anything. When they give you a command, if you didn't execute that command, you were in trouble,
I
right?
see. I see.
And they were very direct. They didn't yell. They didn't. They did not yell. They're very, very direct. They
It
had some sort of mission they were working towards.
was America then overtaken? This was a new system in charge. I mean, what was?
But well, no, I can't. The people, because there was a lady, who had a baby, right? She began to do things, um, in coordination with these other folks. Some were part of this huge group, and some were not. But I can tell you this: they knew exactly what they were doing. They did it without hesitation, and they did it as one single flawless unit. It
Wow.
was that was disturbing the way they handled people,
Hmm.
and because this was America, and I remember watching something on television. I can't say what that was, but it was a show on TV that
Okay.
I saw playing on the television. So I know by that show it was about 10:30 at night, and but they were just it was that was terrible the way they treated people. But most importantly, that they nobody talked. They
Yeah.
didn't talk to each other. They didn't have to. They just stopped and they began to do things.
Are you saying they could read each other's minds? Is that what you're?
Either they were spiritually driven, because I thought about that a lot. Like, were these what took these people over? How could they all of a sudden start doing something like that, right? And then that made me remember about another mandate that we'll go